Dato Sri Johari Abdul Ghani has been appointed as the new Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry, or MITI, in today's cabinet reshuffle. He replaces Dato Sri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz, whose tenure ended on December 2nd following the completion of his 6-year term as a senator. Among Johari's top priorities as he takes on the MITI portfolio will be overseeing the implementation of Malaysia's trade agreement with the US. Both countries reached a reciprocal trade pact on October 26, under which the US agreed to maintain tariffs on Malaysian products at 19%. Malaysia, in turn, committed to reducing or removing tariffs on selected American goods. The deal, however, has faced backlash from certain quarters who claim it is one-sided and could undermine Malaysia's sovereignty. Other notable appointments in the latest cabinet shake-up is Akmal Nasir as the new Economy Minister, as well as Hannah Yeoh as Federal Territories Minister. A deal to end the war between Ukraine and Russia is closer than ever, according to US President Donald Trump. Washington has offered Kiev security guarantees similar to those provided under NATO, marking the strongest commitment the Trump administration has put forward so far.
Numerous conversations with President Putin of Russia, and I think we're closer now than we have been ever. And we'll see what we can do. We want to save a lot of lives. We sell equipment to NATO. We don't spend any money, but we do want to see if we can save a lot of lives.
Trump said his talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as leaders of NATO and several European countries, had gone very well. The US believes Russia could accept a deal allowing Ukraine to join the EU, though that may be optimistic given Moscow's refusal to make concessions so far. Trump also suggested Ukraine would need to cede parts of the eastern Donbas region in exchange for security guarantees, a proposal Zelensky has previously rolled out. European leaders said any territorial decisions must wait until security guarantees are in place, including a European-led multinational force. Moscow, meanwhile, reiterated it will not accept NATO troops in Ukraine under any circumstances.
Now, those are the top stories. More news coming up after the break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
US President Donald Trump has sued Britain's BBC for up to $10 billion, accusing the public broadcaster of defamation over edited footage that he says falsely implied he urged supporters to storm the US Capitol. The edited clip combined his remarks urging supporters to march on the Capitol and to fight like hell, while omitting a separate passage in which he called for peaceful protests.
The lawsuit seeks $5 billion in damages for each of two claims: defamation and violation of Florida law against deceptive and unfair trade practices. The BBC has apologized for what it called an error of judgment, acknowledging the edit created a misleading impression. However, the broadcaster says there is no legal basis for the case and will fight the claim. British Minister Stephen Kinnock said the BBC was right to apologize but also right to defend itself. The controversy stems from documentary titled Panorama on Trump, aired ahead of the 2024 US elections. The incident led to the resignations of two senior BBC executives. Trump has filed multiple lawsuits against media outlets in recent years, including the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and CBS. The lawsuit opens an international front in Trump's long-running battle with media organizations he claims have misrepresented him.
Australian police are investigating a trip taken by two alleged gunmen in the weeks before a deadly shooting at Bondi Beach. 15 people were killed. Philippine immigration officials say they arrived together on November 1st and listed Davao, the southern island of Mindanao, as their final destination. They left the country on November 28th. The suspects have been identified as a 50-year-old father and his 24-year-old son. The father was shot dead by the police at the scene, while the son remains in hospital with critical injuries. New South Wales Police Commissioner Mal Lanyon says investigators are examining the purpose of the trip to the Philippines, who the pair met, and the details of their travel. Australia Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says there is no evidence the pair were part of a wider cell, but they were clearly motivated by extremist ideology inspired by Islamic State. Police have also confirmed improvised explosive devices were found inside the vehicle linked to the suspects. The attack on Sunday was Australia's worst mass shooting in nearly 30 years and is being investigated as an act of terrorism targeting the Jewish community. In an address, Albanese called for national unity.
I think what Australians want is to come together. What terrorists seek to do is to create division, is to create conflict, is to undermine social cohesion. At that time, we're a better country than that, and we can't allow their objective to be successful.
US President Donald Trump has asked his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, to consider releasing Hong Kong pro-democracy tycoon Jimmy Lai. Citing Lai's age and poor health, Trump says he made a request for the media mogul's freedom, but did not specify when the issue was raised with Xi.
Jimmy Lai was convicted today in Hong Kong. Do you have any reactions?
I feel so badly. I spoke to President Xi about it, and I asked to consider his release. He's not well. He's an older man, and he's not well. So I did put that request out. We'll see what happens.
Trump had previously said before returning to the White House that he wanted to secure Lai's release. His latest comments come after a Hong Kong court on Monday found Lai guilty under the city's national security law for colluding with foreign forces. Lai, the founder of the now-defunct tabloid Apple Daily and a British citizen, has been detained since December 2020 and is due to be sentenced early next year. His conviction is part of Beijing's broader crackdown on Hong Kong following mass pro-democracy protests in 2019. He now faces a maximum sentence of life in prison.
Taiwan says its military is ready to respond immediately to any sudden Chinese attack, with all units able to operate independently without waiting for orders. In a report to lawmakers, Taipei warned Beijing has been stepping up military pressure, conducting near-daily drills, grey zone operations, and larger joint combat patrols.
The report added that Chinese warships have also been operating farther into the Pacific to escalate combat alerts if exercises shift from drill to war. It accused Beijing of practicing real-world attack scenarios, shifting from routine drills to multi-service combat-oriented training. Beijing, meanwhile, accused Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te of exaggerating the threat to push a pro-independence agenda, calling such moves extremely dangerous. Taiwan insists only its people can decide the island's future.
Now back to the US, Donald Trump has signed an executive order designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. The US president warned the drug poses a deadly threat to the country, saying it is responsible for between 200,000 and 300,000 deaths each year.
The order declares illicit fentanyl to be closer to a chemical weapon than a narcotic. It notes that as little as 2 milligrams, described as an undetectable trace amount, can constitute a lethal dose. Under the directive, the Justice Department is instructed to immediately pursue investigations and prosecutions related to fentanyl trafficking. It also directs the War and Justice Departments to assess whether military resources should be deployed to support enforcement efforts. The order comes amid growing speculation that the U.S. could carry out land operations against alleged drug trafficking targets in Venezuela as part of its pressure campaign against President Nicolas Maduro. On Tuesday, the U.S. military said it carried out strikes on 3 boats accused of drug trafficking in the Pacific Ocean, killing 8 people. More than 20 vessels in the Pacific and Caribbean have also been targeted in recent months.
European Union foreign ministers ended their final Foreign Affairs Council of the year without agreeing on whether to use frozen Russian assets to provide loans to Ukraine. Now, this leaves the issue unresolved ahead of the upcoming discussion at the December European Council later this week.
Meeting in Brussels, ministers from Italy, Malta, and Bulgaria voiced opposition to using the frozen assets, while Hungary and Slovakia rejected the plan outright. European leaders are preparing to make key decisions on the Ukraine peace process and financing for Ukraine this week. Central to the discussions is whether to use frozen Russian assets held in Belgium to provide financial support, a proposal that has exposed sharp divisions within the bloc. Meanwhile, EU leaders met in Berlin with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, aiming to influence peace efforts. Analysts say doubts about the reliability of the United States as a security partner are pushing Europe to consider more strategic autonomy, even as rising defense costs strain national budgets.
Pakistan and Russia are holding talks on a potential oil sector agreement as Islamabad seeks to deepen energy ties with Moscow and cut import costs. Pakistan's Finance Minister Muhammad Aurangzeb says that both countries are exploring cooperation in exploration, production, and refining, with talks ongoing between their energy ministries.
First of all, we welcome the
Aurangzeb
ceasefire,
called
which has
oil a core Russian strength and said Pakistan would very much welcome a formal deal. Pakistan began buying Russian crude in 2023 to diversify energy sources, while Russia is seeking new markets after Western sanctions over its war in Ukraine. Russian Energy Minister Sergei Sivilev also said plans are being discussed to upgrade a refinery in Pakistan. Aurangzeb added that both countries are exploring broader industrial cooperation, including the possibility of building another steel plant in Pakistan.
Ford Motor announces it will take a $19.5 billion write-down and cancel several electric vehicle models amid weak demand and high costs. The Detroit automaker says it will pivot towards hybrid, gas-powered trucks and a new battery storage business in response to the Trump administration's policies.
Remaining EV efforts at Ford will focus on a family of smaller, more affordable vehicles. Ford's decision to cancel larger electric models, including the F-150 Lightning, marks a major shift as the industry struggles with slower than expected EV adoption. The company also canceled plans for new electric commercial vans in Europe and North America, replacing them with gas and hybrid models to be manufactured at its Ohio assembly plant starting in 2029. Ford said it would also launch a battery energy storage business, converting a Kentucky plant to make products for data centers and power companies. The company aims to invest around $2 billion over 2 years for that initiative, targeting a supply of 20 gigawatt hours of annual capacity by late 2027 to position it as a major player in the fast-growing market. Ford's announcements follow President Donald Trump's move to revoke tougher fuel economy standards introduced by his predecessor Joe Biden, policies that had prompted American companies to shift to electric vehicles.
That concludes AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thank you for watching. Good night.